I've been meaning to do this video for a few weeks now, but things got in the way. Like, well, basically Ben Rama and Joshua King and the transfer window. Well, the official transfer window that closed, and now this unofficial transfer window that's still open. The championship transfer window, let's call it. But David Moyes did say, let's be fair, that he wanted championship players. And I tell you what, Moisty, old son, championship players, exactly what you're going to get. So, you better make it work. You're going to get, I sound like hell, you championship players, exactly what you're going to get. Anyway, I don't know why I did that. So, I'm not here to talk about any of that, actually. What I wanted to talk about was something that I noticed in the League Cup games, first of all. And then after that, I noticed it in the game against Arsenal. The reason that they were different from all the rest was those were the first games that I watched that didn't have artificial crowd noise. Everything last season, post-lockdown, had that artificial noise fed in. And I didn't think I was going to like it. Well, I don't like it, but it does work. It does sort of trick me. I guess I know there are not fans there, but I can hear the noise, the crowd noises and all the rest of it. And I guess it did trick me to one extent or another. My first thought when I heard the lack of noise, should I say, in one of the League Cup games, and I could hear the players shouting at each other, and I hear the benches shouting their instructions onto the pitch, was, I don't like this, it's too quiet. But I adjusted relatively quickly. I still don't like it, but I noticed something. I noticed lots of shouting. I know there were players that I noticed on the football pitch who were more vocal than I thought they were. But what I really noticed was that our bench was far noisier than the opposition's bench. The next time I looked, I noticed the same thing had happened. And then I watched this in a Premier League game. And the reason that is slightly different is because we were playing with different teams. In the Premier League game, I could hear the players shouting, and you realise Souček's a leader. He's demanding quite a lot. Bonner is a lot more vocal than I ever thought he was. Balbuena, I noticed in games since, is very, very vocal. Declan Rice as well. Jared Bowen doesn't stop talking, and it made me realise what a load of leaders that we've got on the pitch, or certainly people that are not afraid to give their teammates instruction. But it was the bench that I really noticed. Moyes is loud. He really is. Alan Irvine are pretty damn loud. And then Kevin Nolan is also... they'd have a word for him up north, but he's a gobby geezer, put it that way. And then you've got Stuart Pearce, who's had to tone it down a little bit in the last couple of games. He's been on the phone the whole time. But when he's not, he's non-stop. And there was a point in that Arsenal game where I saw all those four people that I mentioned screaming at our players and giving instructions. What I also think is key, and I know I say it a lot, don't I? But I thought we played well against Arsenal. And I thought we were getting some really good tactical instructions. And it made me think, this is really important at the moment. This is a different facet of the game that hasn't really been prevalent before. Because, let's be honest, it must be almost impossible to hear anything on that pitch when there are fans in a stadium. Not only that, even if a player does hear what a manager says, a manager's screaming, I told you not to make that run, or I told you to mark him, oh, sorry, did you, Gaffer? Sorry, I can't hear you. It's so noisy. The ability to get your message across during a game now is hugely important. So in that confined space, but I say confined, in that cavernous space, should I say, the ability to project your voice has got to be huge. And when I was watching it, everybody was in our technical area or close to it. And I know Arsenal went on to win the game, but I almost felt we almost bullied their backroom team. We bullied their dugout. We were really loud, we were really vocal, and there has to be some value to that. There has to be worth something in the modern game. When I say the modern game, in the game where there's just no fans in the stadium. So to have a loud manager and to have a loud coaching staff probably doesn't mean an awful lot, just under normal circumstances. But now, when there's no atmosphere, it really is. I think it really, really is important. There was a point in one of the games where I could hear this noise. And I was watching it and I was thinking, hold on a second, there's meant to be no fans in here. But I thought it sounded like there were 20 stewards who were a bit partisan, who were sort of pro-West Ham or whatever. I thought, I wouldn't quite call it an atmosphere, but I could hear noise. And it wasn't until I panned in, that I realised the noise was coming from our bench. Now, once again, if you've got one of the benches, one of the dugouts, let's say, making a load of noise, and the other one isn't, that's going to have some impact on the motivation of the team. Arteta won't care. He was stood there with his arms folded quietly. He won the game. He'll obviously think that his tactics worked in there and his way is the best way. But this was to go on and continue. And after that, I continued to watch it. And every time I've seen it since, including against Wolves as well, I watched it without the artificial sound. And even though Moyes wasn't there for that, we were incredibly loud. And I just think that's a really, really clever way. I don't know whether it's accidental or it's us adapting to the new environment. Because actually, adapting and changing to your environment are crucial in everything, not just football, just in everything, particularly at the moment. When things change, you better adapt. Otherwise, you'll just get left behind. And I was really, really impressed with what I saw. And I just wonder how much of that plays in to what we're doing and what us as a team are doing well, particularly with that organised backline, particularly in the way we're attacking, how much of that is down to instruction that's coming directly from the pitch side. I'm trying to look at it. It's basically as close to the manager being able to do that as is possible, right? And I just wonder how useful that is going to be for us. And then I look at the other results, and I noticed a lot of people were scratching their heads when they were wondering why Liverpool conceded so many goals. Why, who's the other one? Why Manchester United had conceded so many goals against Tottenham. And lots of people were saying, well, maybe because the crowd aren't there to keep the defenders honest. Maybe that plays into it. Maybe that plays some part. I don't know, but I certainly do feel, the more I looked at it and the more I thought about it, that our good form is being able to work on something during the week, be it a defensive shape or whatever, tactics and so on and so forth, and actually then being able to remind the players during the match, come on, look folks, this is what we worked on in a week. Remember that. You've got to be there. You've got to be there. You've got to cover him. And to constantly be able to coach the players through the game. I think it's a massive advantage. As I say, I'm not sure if it's by accident or I'm not sure if it's purposeful, but I do like to think that somebody has noticed, well, hold on, the conditions are more in our favour now. Particularly bearing in mind, you know, we clearly have a good group of coaches who know each other, who are comfortable in each other's company, and just very, very vocal. And it made me think about adapting beforehand. It's quite ironic, really, because David Moyes is very, very slow to react during a game. In fact, you could almost be said that he doesn't react during a game. So in the moment, in the 90 minutes, there's no adapting to anything whatsoever. But if you look at what happened pre-lockdown, everybody was sent home, and we were aware that David Moyes was Zoom calling everybody, was giving everybody individual training regimes, and very much had a plan in mind. So as when football got back up and running, that West Ham would hit the deck running, literally. And I think a lot of the time it was easy to look at, and I do think Moyes conducted himself very, very well in lockdown, of course, as I've said many times. I think a lot of it might have thought, you know, it's words, it's worthless words. He's talking the talk, can he walk the walk? But it did appear that during lockdown he was preparing, and he was preparing very, very well. And you definitely got the impression that when football resumed and we had to all play lots of matches in very, very close proximity, we were ready. We were prepared for that. In short, we had adapted to the new circumstances surrounding football. There was no doubt that he'd got them fitter. How did he get them that fit? He only had the same 3-4 weeks training before football's restart that everybody else did. So it made me wonder, maybe these personal training regimes that he's given to the players worked. Maybe the trips to the stadium, if you remember, he was saying that we're actually going to go to the stadium, we're going to play some games, we're going to try and make the surroundings as familiar as possible. So as when we go there on match day, the quiet stadiums, the surroundings are not going to feel alien to us. Again, it's preparation, it's adaptation, and maybe just him doing that sort of helped West Ham along the way. I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to the next few games. Look, I'm not saying we're going to carry on beating teams 3 by 3 and 4 goals. That clearly is not going to happen. We've got Tottenham coming up. We've got Man City coming up. We've got Liverpool coming up. You might think it's a good time to play Man City and Liverpool. I think I think stories of their demise have been hugely over-exaggerated, certainly. But it's not, and I'm not saying we're going to go and beat all those 3 teams, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we get something from those. That we win one of those 3 games, or we get draws in a couple of them. Highly likely, we lose both of them. But I tell you what, sorry, both of them, or 3 of them, should I say. Well, what I do know is, if we do go down in those games, it won't be because we haven't had a plan and we haven't adapted and we haven't tried. And the more I look at it, and the more I look at Mikel Antonio and him being moved to striker, and not only him being moved to striker, him being a striker to be feared. I was listening on the radio today and people were talking about the 10 most formed players in the Premier League. And Antonio was mentioned in there. But I remember him being mentioned at the tail end of last season as well. And you look at it, no one's going to want to play against this guy. And I think you just have to accept that we do have one of the best players in the Premier League there. How much more evidence do we want? What, 3 seasons worth of evidence? The guy's mustard. He really is. And I think alongside that, and alongside people like Bowen and Souček, and us keeping Declan Rice and everything else, I think with the manager's preparation, the way the team is adapting, I don't think things are looking too shabby for West Ham.